A few months ago, while I was still living with my family, something truly terrifying happened. My parents were out of town, and my siblings were staying with friends. I had the house to myself, which I usually enjoyed. One evening, I was in my room working on a project when I heard a faint scratching noise above me. At first, I dismissed it as rats or some other pest, but the sound grew louder and more persistent. It seemed to be coming from the attic. So I grabbed a flashlight and cautiously climbed the narrow stairs to the attic, my heart pounding in my chest. When I reached the top, the scratching stopped. The attic was cold and filled with old, forgotten items, but there was no sign of anything unusual. As I was about to leave, I noticed a small, dusty window at the far end of the attic. Just as I turned to go, a shadow passed by the window, and the scratching resumed, louder than before. Panic set in, and I hurried back down the stairs, locking the attic door behind me. That night, I slept with my bedroom door locked, unable to shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The next morning, I called an exterminator to check the attic. He found no signs of pests, but mentioned that the window had been forced open recently. The thought of someone possibly being in the attic, watching me, still sends chills down my spine.
I decided to spend a quiet weekend at my grandparents' old cabin in the woods. They had passed away a few years ago, and the cabin had been left untouched. I thought it would be a peaceful retreat, away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The first night was uneventful, and I enjoyed the solitude and the sounds of nature. On the second night, I woke up to an eerie silence. The usual sounds of crickets and rustling leaves were absent. As I lay in bed, I heard a soft, rhythmic creaking coming from the hallway. I got up to investigate, thinking it might be an animal. As I approached the hallway, the creaking stopped, and I was enveloped in an oppressive silence. I turned to go back to bed, and that's when I saw a dark figure standing at the end of the hallway, barely visible in the dim light. My heart raced, and I froze, unable to move. The figure didn't move either, just stood there, watching me. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to flick the light switch on, and the figure disappeared. I spent the rest of the night with all the lights on, sitting in the corner of the living room, clutching a kitchen knife. The next morning, I packed my things and left the cabin, never to return. The image of that dark figure in the hallway haunts me to this day.
Earlier this year, I was home alone one evening, my parents and siblings out for the night. I was watching TV in the living room when I heard a phone ringing. It wasn't my cell phone or the house phone. It was an old-fashioned ringtone, one I didn't recognize. Confused, I muted the TV and listened. The ringing was coming from the basement. I had never liked going down to the basement. It always gave me the creeps, but curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to investigate. As I descended the stairs, the ringing grew louder. When I reached the bottom, it suddenly stopped. I turned on the light and scanned the room, but there was no phone in sight. Just as I was about to go back upstairs, I heard a whisper, a voice calling my name. It was so faint, I almost didn't hear it, but it was unmistakable. Panic set in, and I raced back up the stairs. Slamming the door behind me, I called my parents, but they assured me there was no old phone in the basement. The incident left me deeply unsettled. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was trying to reach out to me from the basement. Even now, I avoid going down there, haunted by the memory of that eerie phone call and the whisper that followed.